there seems to be no end in sight to the energy crisis within the country. Eskom has implemented Stage 3 power cuts this morning, and Stage 4 will kick in at 4 p.m. Companies are being forced to fork out millions of rands to mitigate against the rolling blackouts. So for more discussions on the impact of the energy crisis on businesses, we're now joined by the CEO of the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Alan Mukoki joins me this morning to take this conversation forward. Alan, thank you so much for your time and good morning to you. I had a conversation with Dr. Araj a bit earlier on, Dr. Araj Abedian, who said to me when I spoke about the mining indaba taking place this week that this is meant to be a showcase of the capabilities of the country, but it's more an exposure. This is going to expose the incapabilities of the country due to this rolling blackouts. And I just wonder from your perspective, what's been the impact to the mining industry, would you say?
Well, the impact has been quite negative, not just to mining, but to all other businesses. As you know, South Africa is primarily a mining as well as agri environment, and then all the other businesses are intermediaries, or they try to add some value on products that are coming mainly from mining or assisting in some kind of being suppliers to that particular sector. Then the rest of the people are doing financial services. So if you impact mining, you impact agri, you impact industry, you impact the entire value chain of economic activity. So the impact is definitely very negative. There are many of our members who are throwing in the towel, who believe that they cannot continue in these kinds of circumstances. Because some of the machinery, for instance, those people who are in manufacturing, these machines need to be powered over a number of hours or days before they can reach a level of optimum effectiveness. And they cannot actually keep them on. So they have to close shop and decide maybe they should actually look for other alternatives, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you would agree that we cannot afford to have your members or other businesses closing shop. But when we look at the economy, we look at the high unemployment rate, there needs to be jobs. We need those businesses to continue running. So what are your expectations, as opposed to your members' expectations from the President come State of the Nation address?
Well, I think that it's an issue that has gone beyond the president in our view, because you can't expect the president alone to be the person that can resolve the problems. You know, there is something called a wicked problem. A wicked problem is a problem that has become so complex, so difficult to resolve, that the person coming up with a solution may end up being the problem themselves. So South Africa needs to be alert to the fact that this is no longer a problem that can only be resolved by those who are elected and who hold public office. That there are far many people who are unbelievably talented in South Africa who need to start asking themselves, as we say, do a self-inventory and ask yourself whether do you not have the skills and where is your motivation to be part of the solution and to solve the problem. I don't think that Mr. Ramaphosa, with all his intentions on his own, with his cabinet, will be able to succeed in doing that unless we all come together, we work together. Perhaps maybe the political structure is no longer the most appropriate structure to deal with problems in South Africa that are much more bigger. Yet the solutions do exist in broad society, solutions do exist in pockets of excellence outside of the political system.
I mean, you as the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry have joined many voices in expressing concern over the rolling blackouts. At this stage, it's the damage has exceeded just expressing concern. Something needs to be done, as you mentioned, and I'm hearing that it's a collective responsibility, not just one man's job. What does that look like? What does that coming together and working together look like so we do end this energy crisis?
Well, there's no doubt about it, because we need to be able to say, let's bring our own ideas onto the table. For instance, I'll give you an example. The government has done probably 3 or 4 actions trying to resolve the issue. At first, the president came out and they said, wow, we're going to split Eskom into 3 units, generation, transmission, and distribution, as though that was actually going to fix the problem of load shedding. Even at that particular time, we were questioning, why did you think you are going to do that? Because if you've got a revenue cost problem, and then you've got a power generation problem, you've got a maintenance problem, you ought to be able to explain to me why you think if you split Eskom into 3 parts, that is actually going to be a solution. At that very first time, we started to see that there is a problem with the root cause analysis, in terms of how you do a diagnostic, in terms of looking at the deeper issues of why something is not actually working the way it should. And then the next move the government does is, oh yeah, let's change the board. But when you change the one board to the next board, how do you know that your problem was indeed the board? So if you don't have a proper root cause analysis, a process, and a system, you may then end up changing boards all the time or changing CEOs all the time.
Yeah.
So where we are, we need to be able to pull it all together to say, perhaps maybe let's all sit down together and say, do we even understand the root cause? Because there are so many energy experts that have now suddenly come up in various media platforms, and some of the people don't even make any sense, because you can see that they've never even run a power system, but they are believed because they can make the right sound bite. So we need to be able to get the right people in the room who can actually be very diligent, be very vigorous, be very rigorous in really understanding the root cause of the problem. We know that, one, there are the known knowns. We know that the energy availability factor in many of the power plants is lower than what it ought to be. In other words, in terms of it being higher than 73%, we're seeing a lot of these plants operating below 60%. We also know that there's an issue around planned as well as unplanned maintenance. We know that between particular years, maybe 18 to 20, there were issues where the plant taking out of load of capacity to do the actual maintenance actually went down. And when it went down, we now started seeing EAF actually going down as well, because there's a symbiotic relationship between, if you're not maintaining the old plant, it's always going to break down much more earlier. So those are the things that we need to really understand. And the answer is not to say, but let's do maintenance. The answer is, but why was maintenance not done?
Right.
Who took that particular decision, and how did we even get to the position where we put someone like that who did not have these attributes of even understanding how to run a complex system? So that's where we need to be very, very brutal in our analysis. If, in fact, the problem lies with cabinet, we need to be able to get to that point. If the problem lies with the minister, we need to get to that point. If the problem lies with the selection and recruitment methodology that we use to appoint both boards and COs, we need to get to that particular root cause. Otherwise, we'll be here 10, 20 years down the road, collapsing the country, still having the same problems, because we never dealt with the root cause of why things are happening the way they are.
Well, Alan, I appreciate you speaking to us this morning, and thank you so much for your time. South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry CEO Alan Mukoki.